Arizona Territory, 1883. The first light of dawn spread across the red cliffs and endless desert, painting the sky with shades of gold and crimson. 29-year-old Ethan Carter guided his chestnut horse along a dusty trail after finishing a week-long cattle delivery to Fort Grant. He was known as a quiet cowboy who preferred honest work over trouble. Since losing both parents years earlier, Ethan had built a lonely life on his small ranch, speaking more often to his horse than to another person. That peaceful morning seemed no different until a thick column of black smoke rose beyond the distant canyon, forcing him to change direction. Ethan urged his horse toward the smoke, expecting to find a wildfire or a broken wagon. Instead, he discovered a terrible scene. A small Apache camp had been attacked by armed bandits searching for rumors of hidden gold. Tents burned while frightened horses ran loose across the rocky ground. Several Apache warriors fought bravely, but the outlaws carried repeating rifles and had the advantage. Ethan had no reason to join the battle, yet he could not ignore innocent people in danger. Gripping his Winchester tightly, he rode straight into the fight, determined to stop the violence before more lives were lost forever. Gunfire echoed through the canyon walls as Ethan fired carefully, forcing two bandits to retreat behind large boulders. During the confusion, he noticed a young Apache woman trapped beneath a broken wagon wheel. Her long black hair was covered with dust, and fear filled her dark eyes, but she refused to cry. Ethan leaped from his horse, pushed aside the heavy wood with every ounce of strength he possessed, and freed her injured leg. Before she could stand, another outlaw rushed toward them. Ethan knocked the man down with the butt of his rifle, then quickly helped the woman onto his horse. The woman spoke only a few frightened words in Apache, but Ethan understood she was asking about her family. Sadly, the battle made it impossible to search for them. More outlaws were closing in, and staying meant certain death. Ethan introduced himself slowly, pointing to his chest before saying his name. She quietly answered, Aiyana. Though neither understood much of the other's language, gratitude was visible in her eyes. Ethan wrapped his spare blanket around her shoulders, mounted behind her, and guided the horse through a narrow mountain pass known only to experienced cattle drivers, leaving the smoke behind. For hours they traveled beneath the blazing Arizona sun without stopping. Ethan shared the last of his water and dried beef while Aiyana silently accepted the food. Whenever her injured leg caused pain, she hid it with remarkable courage. As evening approached, dark clouds gathered over the desert, bringing cool winds and the scent of rain. Ethan remembered an abandoned trapper's cabin hidden among cottonwood trees beside a small creek. It was old and weathered, but it offered protection from both the storm and the bandits who might still be searching for survivors across the harsh wilderness. The cabin was small, with a stone fireplace, a broken table, and just enough room for two people. Ethan collected dry wood before the rain began, while Aiyana carefully cleaned her wounded leg using water from the creek. She thanked him in broken English, surprising Ethan with her gentle voice. He smiled warmly and assured her she was safe now. As flames crackled inside the fireplace, Ethan cooked simple beans and coffee while Aiyana watched with quiet curiosity. Neither spoke much, yet the silence between them felt peaceful instead of uncomfortable, creating an unexpected feeling of trust between strangers. Later that night, distant hoofbeats echoed outside the cabin. Ethan immediately extinguished the fire and quietly looked through a narrow crack in the wooden wall. 3 armed riders carrying burning torches searched the surrounding hills, clearly hunting anyone who had escaped the attack. Ethan motioned for Aiyana to remain silent. She nodded, understanding the danger without needing words. For nearly an hour they waited in complete darkness as the riders passed dangerously close before finally disappearing into the storm. Only after the sounds faded did Ethan breathe normally again, realizing their escape had been far closer than he had admitted. As dawn returned, golden sunlight filled the valley beyond the cabin. Ethan stepped outside to check the trail while Aiyana followed slowly, leaning on a walking stick he had carved during the night. She looked toward the distant mountains where her people lived, sadness filling her eyes, yet she also smiled gratefully at the cowboy who had risked everything for someone he had never met. Ethan could not explain why saving her suddenly mattered so deeply to him. He only knew their journey was far from over, and neither realized that destiny had already begun weaving their hearts together. The morning after the storm, Ethan and Aiyana left the abandoned cabin before sunrise, hoping to reach a safer valley. Aiyana's injured leg had grown stronger, though she still walked carefully across the rocky ground. Ethan stayed close, ready to help whenever she stumbled, but she refused to let pain defeat her spirit. Along the trail she showed him edible desert plants and hidden springs known only to her people. Ethan admired her courage and wisdom, realizing she possessed a strength far greater than anything he had witnessed on the open cattle range. As the days passed, the distance between them slowly disappeared. Aiyana practiced speaking English while Ethan learned a few Apache words that made her smile despite everything she had endured. Around the evening campfires they shared stories of their lives. Ethan spoke about losing his parents and growing up alone on the frontier, while Aiyana described the traditions, songs, and values of her tribe. They discovered that although their worlds were different, they both believed in honesty, family, and kindness. Those simple conversations created a bond that neither of them expected would become so deeply meaningful. 3 days later, they reached Ethan's small ranch near the edge of the Arizona territory. It was modest, with a weathered wooden house, a red barn, and horses grazing peacefully beneath the wide western sky. Aiyana helped prepare meals despite Ethan insisting she should rest. She repaired torn blankets, cleaned the house, and filled the lonely home with quiet warmth. Ethan found himself smiling more often than he had in years. Every evening they sat together on the porch, watching brilliant sunsets paint the desert, silently wishing those peaceful moments would never come to an end. Their happiness was interrupted when an elderly Apache scout arrived at the ranch carrying a white peace cloth instead of a weapon. He explained that Aiyana's family had survived the attack and had searched tirelessly for her. Her father, the respected leader of their band, wished to thank the cowboy who had saved his daughter. Ethan immediately saddled his horse and accompanied Aiyana back toward her homeland. Although relieved that her family lived, he quietly feared the moment she would return to them, knowing their paths might soon separate forever despite everything they had shared together. When they entered the Apache camp, Aiyana's mother rushed forward with tears in her eyes, embracing her daughter tightly. Warriors lowered their weapons after hearing Ethan's brave actions during the attack. Her father stepped forward with quiet dignity, thanking Ethan for risking his life to protect someone from another culture. He offered horses, silver, and supplies as payment, but Ethan respectfully refused every gift. He had never expected a reward. Saving Aiyana had simply been the right thing to do. The chief admired the cowboy's character, though tradition still required his daughter to remain with her people. That evening, a celebration filled the camp with music, dancing, and laughter honoring those who had survived. Ethan was welcomed as an honored guest, sharing food beside the tribal elders while children listened eagerly to stories of courage. Yet behind every smile, he sensed that time was slipping away. Aiyana often looked toward him across the fire, her eyes filled with emotions words could never fully express. They both understood that love had quietly entered their hearts, but neither wished to disrespect her family or the traditions that had guided generations before them. Before sunrise the following morning, Ethan prepared his horse for the long ride home. Aiyana walked with him to the edge of the camp where the desert stretched endlessly toward the horizon. Neither spoke for several moments. Finally, she thanked him for giving her life back when hope had nearly vanished. Ethan gently admitted that saving her had also rescued something inside his lonely heart. Tears filled their eyes as they embraced beneath the glowing morning sky. Without promises they could not keep, they whispered farewell, believing destiny had chosen different roads for each of them. Months passed, and Ethan returned to the quiet routine of ranch life, yet nothing felt the same. Every sunset reminded him of Aiyana's smile, and every desert breeze carried memories of their journey together. He often wondered whether she was happy among her people. One crisp autumn afternoon, a familiar horse appeared on the distant trail. Ethan looked up from repairing a fence and could hardly believe his eyes. Riding toward the ranch was Aiyana, dressed proudly in Apache clothing, her face glowing with confidence and hope instead of sadness or uncertainty. Aiyana stopped before Ethan and explained that peace had finally been established between nearby settlers and her tribe. With her family's blessing, she was free to choose the future she wanted. She had returned not because she owed him her life, but because she loved the man who had risked everything for a stranger. Ethan's eyes filled with joyful tears as he took her hands beneath the warm Arizona sun. Together they built a home where two different worlds lived side by side, proving that true courage can rescue a life, but genuine love can heal two hearts forever.